So welcome to another Being Smarter Advice Slip. My name is Mark Copeman, and there's been a few people recently who've commented on some of the output that we've put out recently, and have asked me, how do I set up the office? What does it look like? What do I do? And so I thought I'd quickly run around it so that everybody could just maybe grab a couple of tips in terms of how things are set up. Before I go any further, though, I have to give a big up and acknowledgement to the fantastic James Franco and Timbo Reid. The Freedom Ocean podcast, if you've not caught it before, is really, really good, freedomocean.com. And back in June of 2011, I listened to this particular podcast, and what you're about to see has been influenced by this. I had quite a lot of it in place, but I've done a few things since James talked about his spaceship, as he calls it. Not an office, but a spaceship. And so to both of you, thank you very much indeed. So this is where I work. This is where I'm sat right now, and there's a bunch of red dots all over it, which aren't there in real life. I'm using those as just a way I can help sort of guide through what goes on, and I'll give you some examples of what's been produced as a result of this in a moment. But first things first, this is my sort of main work area, and there's two PCs. I know they're not Macs, but they are PCs which are controlled by a single wireless keyboard and single mouse. And in the notes on the Being Smarter blog post that this video is associated with, you'll find the piece of software down there which I use, which you put on the laptop over here. So this is a laptop with another screen, and there's a PC underneath this desk here for these two screens. Put the software on both, and just configure it in a second or two, and you can use one keyboard, one mouse, and what happens is that the mouse spans all four desktops, and as soon as your mouse is over on this one, the keyboard is activated for the laptop, and vice versa. I have to say, it is a life changer. It's absolutely brilliant. I've seen people struggling with two keyboards and two mice, and you really don't want that, because it's just horrible. The thing I wanted to point out really about this main work area is I am using as much screen, I have as much screen space as I possibly can get my hands on. You can just get so much more done if you have a decent amount of screen real estate. So there's two 1920 pixel resolution monitors here. Yeah, the little tiny laptop screen is pretty small, but it's I've recently sort of downgraded to a smaller netbook because it's just so much easier to take around with me. But this is where stuff gets done. So in terms of how I actually sort of arrange the workspace, normally email is open on this particular laptop. I do turn it off because it's just such bad practice to have it on all the time. But if I need to be monitoring something, I leave it on there. It's kind of sort of tucked out of the way. You can't see it, but my Skype window is also to the right of the email program as well. These two monitors are used for working in the browser, creating documents, spreadsheets, whatever it may be. And one of the reasons I have two PCs is because if I'm looking at a website over here and I'm making changes to it over here, it's just really handy to be able to refresh this and not be a logged in user, and be a logged in user to the site over here. So I often do that. It's just really quite handy rather than having to log out and look at something. I often stay logged out of my Google account on this machine so that I can see where things are appearing in searches without being biased on the with me logged in as a particular user. So there's lots and lots of reasons for splitting work across two individual machines. But the important thing is just to try to keep these things tidy. If you're working on one thing, shut this one down. Just have your desktop photo showing or whatever, and do your work here or do your work here. And I sort of sit in the middle. And then over on the right hand side, I've got another screen here which you can probably just make out. This TweetDeck open. I can have iTunes open on that as well. I sometimes have my sort of targets, contact stuff, and spreadsheets open here if I'm just keeping an eye on what's going on. So it just gives you kind of this sort of peripheral vision with these two monitors, which I really like. People think I'm slightly crazy with a number of screens, but you cannot have too much screen real estate. Everything is easier. I see people trying to work on this 11.6 inch laptop, and that is all they have, and they spend their whole time switching between applications. It's utter madness. Get yourself bigger monitors and span them like this if you can. Here's my notebook, always open. Just not much paper around in the office. These are my in trays, and the reason that sounds quite dull, doesn't it? But the reason I'm mentioning them, I use the same methodology as I have in my email filing here, taught to me by Gina Trapani from Lifehacker fame. Here I have an inbox with stuff needs dealing with. Here I have stuff which I need to file away, and I'm just going to stick it in there until it needs to be filed. In the bottom, I'm just looking back at it right now. Of course, it's my hold tray. If I'm waiting for something, if I ordered something, or I have a piece of paper and I need to just keep checking on it once in a while, that is my bottom tray there. Other than that, this is pretty much a paperless office. There is one file over here with a bunch of different plastic folders in for projects that I'm working on, if I have printouts that I need. But other than that, there's very little paper around. I've got my notice board here. It's a bit bald at the minute. You can just make out here, this is my weekly spreadsheet where I am on the finances. Some objective type stuff over here. Normally there's a few more bits and pieces just as reminders which are pinned up over here. Just finally on this side, the clock. Pretty important. Need to keep an eye on what's going on time-wise. I don't have an expensive chair. I don't suffer from back problems. Hopefully I won't in later life. But this is a relatively cheap chair from IKEA. But I spend hours sitting in it, and it's done me well so far. Now, what's all this business over here? Why have I got yet more screens over here? This, under the desk, you can see, is another PC, which is affectionately called the Beast. And this is where all my video production work gets done, or anything that I'm actually doing gets done. So screen cam stuff. I'm sitting right now at this desk with a very, very high powered PC with 12 gigs of RAM and a quad processor in, which means that everything becomes easy, which is really cool. I've got 2 dedicated monitors and a dedicated keyboard specifically for this PC. The only thing on this PC is to do with video production and recording stuff. There's nothing else on it. However, there's 3 fantastic pieces of kit. I've got a light, a softbox above shining down. I'll explain that in a second. I've got this awesome Samson boom mic right here on a boom, which is a USB mic, which means that hopefully, as you're hearing right now, the sound quality is fantastic and there's no me knocking the microphone around. And over here, the most fantastic HD Logitech webcam. And if I just zoom in, you can see it's just a very simple tripod, and it's actually taped on. Okay, but it's a really good angle to do stuff at. And if I just flick back to the browser here, what it means is I can do stuff. Let me just turn this down. You may have come across this. This is how I produce this. So the light coming from above makes this nice and bright, and then what I've done is I've turned the webcam upside down, positioned it just over here, and I've obviously got my boom mic as well, so I can now sort of explain different concepts and do different things before I head off into doing other screen cam type stuff, which I've then gone on to record there. So this particular sort of workstation area is just so darn handy, I can't tell you, but it's only switched on when I'm doing video production stuff. Other than that, it's switched off and I don't get distracted by it. Underneath, the recycling bin, of course, and there's a shredder as well, which is downstairs. Really, really important. Now, that's the first part. The second part behind, and I have to say this is where James has really helped me out. The whiteboard doesn't look this blurry in real life, but I kind of shouldn't be giving away too many secrets here. So behind all this, I've got this great little area where a lovely big whiteboard for ideas. As you can just about make out, this is my projects for the month. These are the different things I've got to be ticking off. And over here on the right-hand side are my targets for the month as well. All sorts of different targets. And I run a little countdown of how many days left for the end of the month. There's some other sort of objectives things down here. But also, I wanted to point this little... you can just make out it's kind of like a glossy photo thing. What I do is when I'm doing stuff on the whiteboard, I take a photo of it, stick it in the printer, and out it comes, and I just stick it on the wall. So it's kind of like a poor man's electronic whiteboard, really, but it works a treat. And what I also do is I have my laptop here, another laptop on a little stand in case I'm sort of presenting to the whiteboard. I often film stuff, whether it be pitches and so on, and I use the whiteboard and the PC to present. So that is the office, and I have to say it's an absolute joy to work in it. I'm very, very lucky. I spend many hours in it, so I would encourage you to think about your environment. Are you happy with it? Could you do yourself a favour and spend 2 or 3 hours rearranging and getting it so that everything is easier? Think easy. The easier things are, the more you can get done. And if I just come back to James, and I would strongly recommend. I'll put the link to this in the notes, but take a listen to what James has to say about his office and the way he sets things up, and you won't go far wrong. Hope you found that useful.